All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for being here. We're noticing that there have been lots of questions and challenges with Zoom. It's such a fabulous tool, but it's also, you got to learn how to use it well. So hopefully we're going to be able to explore a few things you may or may not have known about Zoom, and also talk about a few of the issues that you may have. I experienced one just now, and I turned on the waiting room for this, making sure, hoping to block any Zoom bombers, right? Because we had to put the link out publicly. Gosh, they might find it and join us, but man, that's annoying. Trying to admit 50 plus people to a meeting. So one of those challenging things. But thanks for joining us. I'm Laura Widener. I'm one of the instructional designers for K-State Global Campus. My partner in crime is Trina McCarty. She is also here joining us along with Shelly Griffin, who is our Zoom expert on campus. And they're both going to be monitoring the chat while I just cover a couple of slides to help us kind of orient to the three things we thought might be new ideas for people, and wanted to kind of go over those with you. So the first tip is the Canvas Zoom interface, and setting up your meetings in Canvas can really help you in integrating those Zoom meetings with your students. It links with the roster directly, so all students can easily access the Zoom meetings through that Zoom link. And I'll jump over to Canvas real quick to show everybody. If it's reoccurring on different days, you'd want to set your time to be a fixed time, or a no fixed time rather, so that they can just log in when you've scheduled the time. Now, one of the things that we've noticed has been an issue for folks is that if you created your meeting out in the Zoom website or in the Zoom app, it's not necessarily integrated into Canvas, but you can import those meetings. Yay, a wonderful thing to have learned. As well, if you record to the cloud, your recordings will be there. So I'm going to switch my share real quick, and I am going to share instead my Chrome. Get to that. All right. So this is an example within Canvas. I set up a meeting by clicking schedule up here in the Zoom link, which I'll do it step by step. You want to go into settings and then into navigation, and you'll be able to find Zoom as a potential link. So you pull it up to this space here and make sure you save at the bottom. So then both you and your students can see that Zoom link. So I've created this office hours Zoom link, and both I and the students can see this event. So when I click on it, I can see that I've set it up Monday through Thursday from 2 to 3 Central Time. You can add a lot more to the description there as well. And the link is right there. If I'd had a passcode on it, the students would not need to use that passcode. They could just click the link because it's already integrated with their Zoom or their Canvas account. That single sign-on process allows them to just log right in. So you can still have a passcode on it just to further protect your steps. And then that is helped by the only authentic users can sign in to Zoom. Always good to have your participants muted to start with, but you can also set it up to record the meetings automatically. So if this is for class, that will record your lectures and then you can post them. Now for the recordings now, your students also can see that there is a cloud recording if you click the publish. So after each recording, you're going to have to come in here and click publish for your students to be able to see that. One caution we do want to make sure everybody knows is that um, the amount of storage that we have in the cloud within Zoom is finite. It is not a lot. And the more we use Zoom this semester, the more challenges we're going to have with that space. It's going to fill up very quickly. So you're likely going to see some messages soon about, gosh, please delete your recordings that you have in the cloud. But it can be a good quick way for students to access it, so that that information is available to them right away. It also has the nice integration of an auto transcription, auto captioning, which does need to be corrected, but is then available for your students. But we are recommending that if you are using the cloud recording, that you do download from Zoom and upload into MediaSite. We can go into that in more detail at a different time if folks want help on that. But MediaSite is really the best storage location for all of this content. All right, so let me go ahead and switch back over to my presentation real quick. All right, so, oh, I forgot, importing other meetings. You'll see, oh darn, I'm gonna go back. All right, you will see an import meeting right here with the three little dots. So if you've created something out in your Zoom app or in the website, you would be able to import it into this class. But we did discover it can only be linked with one class. So you are not able to create this office hours link and put it into multiple different classes, unfortunately. You could manually by adding it as an announcement and providing the link invitation, but you would not be able to have it within the Zoom app. All right. I'm sure we're getting lots of great questions, and we'll get to those as soon as I do the next two tips. All right, so next tip, sharing your video during a Zoom session. So we've noticed that sometimes folks have difficulty hearing a video that is within a Zoom session. So you always want to make sure that you are sharing your desktop when you are doing a Zoom session so that you can easily navigate around um, and you can switch windows, if you will. And the then what you are looking at is also what they are looking at. Your Zoom tools are almost never shared. They can't see the chat within your window. They can't see the participants, anything like that. It is just your desktop that you're sharing. But also make sure you don't have anything open that you wouldn't want them to see. So at the bottom, when you're about to share your screen, there's going to be a button that says Share Computer Sound. That makes it possible so that the sound coming through your computer rather than your microphone necessarily will be what is picked up when you play that video. And so it is much better to be able to hear the video itself while it's playing. We do caution you to use the other link that's there that says optimize video. That sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work. It depends upon the quality of the video that you're sharing, the quality of the connection or the computer that you have. Sometimes clicking optimize video actually distorts the video. So do a test run or two and see how it looks to one of your students or your TA or another instructor to make sure that it plays well. Another part of this tip is that if you have a video embedded within a PowerPoint presentation, that often opens up in another window. So you're going to want to make sure that you're sharing your desktop and that you navigate so that you're looking at that window, because it may be that they're still seeing your PowerPoint and not the video that you just clicked on. One last little tip about sharing during Zoom sessions, you can use multiple devices and you can change the video source when you are sharing. There is an advanced shared settings when you go to share your screen. And so if you have a camera document or something like that, if you're in the classroom, you'd be able to share that as well. We have discovered that you cannot necessarily use more than one desk top or more than one main computer. You can use a phone, you can use a tablet, and you can use a main computer when you're sharing. So those are different ways that you would be able to log in. Our final tip is about breakout rooms, and I've had some fun with that lately. Kind of challenging. You can set them up so that they are pre-assigned, but you have to be very careful about that. But you can also just do the breakout room right there during your session. So pre-assigning, you would need to use their pre-set up CSV file, which is a type of Excel spreadsheet, and make sure that you are picking the room, and you can pre-assign the names and then their email address with k-state.edu. Again, a part of our single sign-on process, you would want to make sure that you are using the k-state. Also emphasizing that students should be logged in through their K-State account. A lot of us have struggled with, creating personal accounts, and it's limited in the amount of time. Your meetings limited to 40 minutes, and you have less functionality. So making sure that you're logging in through the K-State system is great. And so you can preset your breakout rooms, or you can just right there set up your options. And one way that I've seen folks do it, if they have a GTA or some other person that can assist, those people can be, if they are the host, they can be kind of pre-setting up the breakout rooms before you're ready to actually break out. And you can be continuing to talk in the main room. One very important thing, if you haven't realized yet, only the main host has control of breakout rooms and sees this screen. Any co-hosts do not have that functionality. We are asking Zoom to build that in, but unfortunately that hasn't been built yet. So we're all ready to questions, and I've seen lots of things in the chat, so I'm going to stop my share and come back. Looks like we have quite a few things. Shelley or Trina, do you have anything you want to share?
Yeah, so I guess I'll go ahead and start it off with the questions that I have not answered yet through the
Sounds
chat.
good.
The one I wanted to get answered, and this is more of a Canvas question, so I might tap Hung Fu Chen, who's more of a Canvas expert on this one. How do I get the Zoom tab under courses? Hung Fu, are you still available? Okay, I do see him as a participant.
You
I
may
don't
not
know
be available.
exactly what the tab is called, but I do know there is a settings tab within Canvas where you would navigate to all of those separate tabs over on the side. So you would have to essentially activate that Zoom tab in your Canvas course
Yeah,
to
so I
be
can
able
walk
to do that.
everybody through that again real quick.
Thank you, Laura.
So yeah, you just go to settings in your course, and then to navigation. And so any of the types of navigation pieces that you have would be along this list. So it will be all the way down at the bottom here. Excuse me. You would click on the three dots and click enable and then save. Gotta remember to save right here or it doesn't stay there. So that is also a great thing to do to pull things that you aren't using out of student site, like files or pages if you're using modules, those kinds of things. If you're not using navigation pieces, pull them out of the student view so that they aren't confused about where you want them to go. But if you come here to navigations and pull that into place by enabling it and saving it, then it'll be right there on your menu. Now you can always also put that in a separate location if that's a really big part of your navigation and you want it like right under the home page. You can drag it up there, click save, and then it's just right there. The students, gosh, they shouldn't be able to miss it, but they find a way sometimes. All right, what's next?
Okay, the next question, and if you're okay, I'll go ahead and answer this. It
Go
was
for it.
mainly a reminder on how to mute students' audio and block students' video. So if you're in a Zoom meeting already, the way you would mute audio is under the Participants tab. There is either a More button or three dots that allows you to bring up more controls where you can mute everyone's microphone. Or if you hover over individual participants, you can mute them individually. And that would be the same way that you could ask to turn someone's video on or turn someone's video off. You could find them individually in your participant list and turn their video and audio on and off through there. If you would like to set this up before your meeting starts, you can do that in the scheduling portion. You have the ability to start your meeting with everyone's video turned off. However, during when the meeting starts, they can then turn their video on. If that is something you don't want them to do, you can either talk about that at the beginning of your class and let them know, hey, just don't turn your video on. Or if people do not comply with that request, you would have to go under to the participants tab and then turn their video off from there. And then there will also be an option to not allow them to turn it back on after you have turned it off. So, okay.
So I'm actually looking at the drop down from the three buttons. You see invite, mute all, and then the three dots. And it says mute participants upon entry, allow participants to unmute themselves, which is not checked right now. So I'm actually going to check it in case anybody, when we have towards the end, any additional time if you want to jump on. You can allow participants to rename themselves, play a sound when someone joins or leaves, enable waiting room, and lock meeting. Those are the kinds of things that you can control from the participants menu. All right, what's next?
Okay, next we have a question from Sue Gusick. Does the Canvas link and roster eliminate the k-state.edu address requirement?
You mean in terms of pre-setting, pre-assigning the breakout rooms? Not really. You still need to use their K-state email address. The reality is if they're signing into Canvas, they're using their K-state email address. We've had a few issues with the pre-assigning using KSU versus K-state. For the pre-assigning, you need to use K-state because of the single sign-on system. That is what it's connected through, and Shelley knows the names of the programs and everything, but that is what needs to be used to do the pre-assign. So if your students are logging into Canvas, they should be using their single sign-on process to do that.
Yes, and one thing I will add to that, and it looks like Sue put some more notes, and it was about this pre-assigning those breakout rooms. Um, yes, when you're pre-assigning breakout rooms in Zoom, you do have to use the @k-state. However, If the student or the person that you are trying to add has never signed into Zoom before, their account has not technically been created yet. There are enough accounts for every faculty, staff, and student here at K-State, but it's not something that is created automatically just because they have an EID. They have to at least sign into the service one time before you can find them and add them on a breakout room, add them as an alternative host, any of those things that you're going to be adding them to with their K-State email address. Okay. Next question, how can you activate a poll in Zoom? Polling, I would always recommend to create your poll before you start your meeting or your event or class. And the best way to do a poll is to access your meeting through logging into your profile page from a web browser. You would not create a poll just by using the Zoom desktop client. Once you get to your meeting through a web browser, through your profile page, at the very bottom, there is a place where you can start and create polls. Once you have a poll created, you can actually create multiple polls. Each poll can have a variety of questions within them. But once you have them created before your meeting starts, then you go to start your meeting, you will see a poll button in your menu bar to be able to launch those polls throughout your meeting. And then another thing regarding polls, you don't have to try to capture all those responses before you move on to the next thing. Zoom allows you to run a poll report after your meeting is completed, and you'll be able to see how everyone answered those poll questions. So you don't have to gather that information in your live meeting. Laura, can you think of anything else about polls?
No, I can't say I've had a ton of experience with them yet.
Okay. Uh,
So Sue had an additional add-on to the pre-assigning whether or not we can change their email address in Zoom. Once you've started your Zoom session, if your pre-assigning process doesn't work, you really need to manually push folks out to the meetings.
okay, it looks like we have a question about a step-by-step guide about recording. Um, I don't have anything prepared for that right now. However, we do have a one-page PDF on our K-State branding page that kind of tells you how to do everything with the desktop client and then also within your meetings. So I will post that in the chat here once I have the link to it. But as far as recording goes, there's two different options if you want to record in Zoom. One is a local recording, and that means you are recording it locally to the device you're using at the time. In order to do that, it has to be a computer. You can't locally record to an iPad or your mobile device. So you can local record to the computer you're using at the time, or you can do cloud recording. Cloud recording, the benefit to that is when your meeting is over, you can essentially just walk away from your computer and then wait until the cloud does that processing for you. If you do a local recording, you do not want to shut down that computer until the recording has finished processing. This is especially true if you are using a shared computer in a classroom across campus that has deep freeze on it. Deep freeze is a program that cleans out any viruses or anything that was loaded to the computer throughout the day. And essentially on a reboot, you lose anything that was saved to that computer. So if you are choosing to do a local recording on a shared computer, make sure you actually bring that recording with you before you leave the room, because chances are if the computer restarts by the time you go back, your recording will be lost. Laura, can you think of anything else we need to say about recording?
No, Trina put the PDF that you referenced
Thank you.
into the chat, so that's there. And really, there are so many other guides and tips from Zoom and everything like that. If you were to Google recording in Zoom, you'd probably find 5 or 6 great examples or videos showing you step by step, those kinds of things. So those are, Google is your friend.
That and that is, yes, that is a great resource. Another one, if you want one more officially that comes from Zoom, support.zoom.us also has a lot of great step-by-step instructions for any topic regarding Zoom that you can think of.
All right.
One
Another
question came
question.
up about an observation regarding waiting rooms. If you use a waiting room, you actually have to admit individual participants, unless I'm missing something. So yes, if you do have the waiting room feature turned on, you will have to admit those participants as they join. If you have a couple of more than one person waiting in your waiting room queue, you can admit all. There's a button to be able to admit all. Or once your meeting starts, if you want to get rid of the waiting room, you would be able to do that as well, and you can do that under the security button. That's where you could disable the waiting room if you have that turned on.
So I saw a question go by about security and not allowing students to rename themselves. You do have to turn off, or excuse me, turn on their ability to rename themselves. Um, so if that's turned off, they shouldn't be able to, but it may be their account through which they are signing in has some modifications already made to it. And I would say, recording or making sure that you are monitoring that as closely as you can and reporting it to student life or to the proper channels would be a really good idea. You can remove participants and block them from being able to re-enter the Zoom session, but I hear what you're saying, that their anonymity can cause problems with that. Michael, the training, once we get it downloaded from the cloud, will be put up on the Keep Teaching website and on probably on the Zoom page as well. So we will make sure that it gets out to everyone.
I see a question about rearranging polls. Sue, that's actually something I'm going to have to check into more details on. I would suggest, Laura, maybe after this, all the questions that we're not able to answer today due to the time, we'll gather those up, and then Laura will find the most appropriate place to post those answers to, and kind of let
100%.
everyone know where to find those answers.
Yep, absolutely. We will definitely go back through this with a fine-tooth comb. I did see one question about recording the breakout sessions. So they are not going to be automatically recorded when you are in the main session. So if I were to break out this room right now, my recording would record an empty main room. I would not be recording the individual breakout rooms. Shelley, can they set those to be recorded once they're broken out?
Laura,
Um,
Laura,
sorry.
this is Carrie. Can I
Uh-huh.
say something? So yesterday I was recording and my students were in breakout rooms, and what ended up getting recorded was me, what I was doing during,
Hopping from one to the other, or
oh, I had to go into my email yesterday and deal with kind of a crisis situation, not crisis, but a time sensitive situation related to my class. And so I had to go, while they were in the breakout rooms, I had to run to my email and deal with something so I could address it in class. And the recording recorded my entire email
yeah,
conversation.
you were sharing your screen at that time?
Yeah, and so just FYI to people, and if you might not even realize that's going on if you don't watch your entire video, and so that could have been extremely, it could have violated all sorts of FERPA rules. So it was pretty frustrating. And then figuring out how to snip the video in the middle of the video was extremely challenging. So just FYI, if you're sharing, don't share your screen, I guess another step you have to remember to do. So
Yeah, and you can always stop or pause the recording as well when
right.
students are out in the breakout rooms.
Yeah, that I guess would be the solution, would be
Yeah.
to stop or pause, because that's a waste of time for the other students that aren't in the
Are
break.
watching, right?
So.
I think there's a really good question about co-host and alternate hosts, and if you could describe those.
Sure, I can take that one. So essentially, an alternate host or alternative host is something that you assign to the meeting before the meeting starts. Alternative hosts are able to start the meeting before the host actually arrives or has a chance to start the meeting. So it was kind of a feature that was created to allow life to happen. Essentially, if Laura is the true host of the meeting, but something happens where she can't actually get to the meeting in time, or she's running late, or she's sick or something, if she has added me as an alternative host, I can go ahead and start that meeting on Laura's behalf without her having to be present in the meeting. A co-host, however, is something that happens once the meeting is live. You can add other co-hosts to your meeting once the meeting is live, but the alternative host essentially turns into a co-host once your true host of the meeting has entered and takes back control of the meeting. Laura or Trina, anything else regarding co-host or alternative host you think I should mention?
No, I think that was good.
Okay.
I'm trying to scroll back through, see if there's another question we can grab real quick. We are technically out of time, but if you have any additional questions, you'd like to unmute yourself and we can continue talking. I'm happy to stay on for a bit and help work through things, but thank you all so much for being here. Great to see such a large group. We're hoping to do these kinds of quick tips and things that will help people in the issues that they're having at the moment. So if you have any ideas or things that you would like to get a little additional, tips and tricks and ideas of how things are going for other people, please let us know at gcid@ksu.edu, and then we'll consider that as a topic coming up as we go through this semester. And we're looking for any and all great ideas that you might have, because we want to make sure that any training that we offer really addresses your needs and what you're dealing with right now. Also, if you have things that you have learned that you would love for to share with folks, let us know and we'll make sure that that gets out there.